This is a really long answer. This is basically going to be its own video. Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to the first Q&A that I have ever done. At least regarding questions from subscribers. I've done the whole get to know me tags type of things. I'll put those up here. Those are from like forever ago. It's from when I used to do the old kind of content, which was like reviews and hauls and things of that nature. So if you want to go watch some older videos of me, up here is where you can go for that. So editing Whitney here. This video was only the answer to one question. So I decided to give it its own video. And because it's also a question that I get a lot. And it's, you know, well, you'll see. But this is me answering basically one question. But to answer that question, I have to go way back into my life, like from when I was 14. So like 20 years. Whew. So yeah, that's all that's in this video. It's just one question. The rest of your questions are going to be coming in another video. I'm going to try and film that right now. We'll see how that goes. Okay, back to this video. So the first question is coming from a subscriber. Hopefully I say the username right. Jutubix. This is one of the first questions I received. So, it would be nice to hear about your own singing career. Your voice sounds really good. Oh, well, thank you. And I would love to know when and where you have started singing, and were you in the band or solo artist and all that interesting stuff. I was never in a band. I actually never really had a singing career. I mostly sang like in talent shows and stuff. The very first time I sang in public was my freshman year of high school. There was a, you know, just a thing in the cafeteria for you to sign up for talent show auditions. It was weird. You had to audition for a talent show, but whatever. And I was too chicken. I did not sign up. And a good friend of mine, his name is John. He was a senior, I was a freshman. But we were all like in this same like little clique. Like I was not interested in Pokemon and Magic cards. I didn't get it. But it seemed like all the friends I hung out with were into Magic. I think it's an RPG. It's like with cards and stuff. Anyway, they were all into that and like video games and whatever. And I was just sort of like this outsider that just sort of somehow fit into this weird little clique. He signed me up. He did. He said, oh, by the way, I signed you up for the talent show. And I'm like, you did what? I'd never sung in front of people. I don't even think anyone in that group knew how I sounded when I sang. So I was like, what, huh? And he's like, yeah, your audition is on this day at this time. And I was like, oh my God. And so I had to sing in front of, you know, my peers, basically. It was the theater director, because I mean it was the auditorium, so I guess she felt like she had some sort of jurisdiction or something. I don't know. She ended up not liking me a couple years later, but I didn't really care. Anyway, it was her and two other people, and then everyone else who was auditioning that day. And so there's like at least 20 people in this big auditorium, and I just remember I picked a spot on the wall and just stared at it. I did not look at anybody. I was too scared to look at anybody. And I was like, And I remember I got in, and it was like I was getting into Harvard or something. I was like, oh my God, I got into the talent show. I was 14, by the way, guys. I was like, this was all new to me. And so the first time I sang in front of like a huge audience was the night of the talent show. And then after that, I did talent shows all through high school. There was a local band that I met when I sang at a benefit for someone who went to my church, and they were a soul group, and I really liked them. The leader of the band is a very well-known saxophone player from, you know, the 50s and 60s. And so I met them, and the guy that the benefit was for, he introduced me to them and said, you know, she should sing with you guys from some time. And I was like, okay. And so they're like, yeah, sure, we have a show, you know, in a few weeks over at the blah blah blah, wherever it was. Why don't you come over to, I forgot her name, the keyboardist's house. We do rehearsals there every whatever days it was. I think it was Wednesdays and Fridays or something. And we'll pick a song for you to do, we'll rehearse it, and then the show is that Saturday. And I was like, okay. So I went down there and I sang with them. This was sometime over the summer, and I sang with them. I rehearsed with them twice. I was originally going to sing At Last by Etta James, and then I was like, I want to do something fun. And so at the last minute, because I told them that at first I wanted to do At Last, and like, okay, that's fine. And then I get there and I'm like, actually, could I do Chain of Fools instead? And they're like, yeah, that'd be fun. And so I ended up doing Chain of Fools. And so then every time I went to one of their shows, like as just a bystander who was just there, if his wife saw me, she's like, girl, you were getting up on stage and you were singing that song. And I was like, okay. So I like always had that song in my head just in case. As far as like a career goes, like anything that had to do with the actual business, because I get this question a lot, you know, were you a singer? Were you in the business? Sort of, not really. I had some contacts, but I never did anything with it. Like when I was, after I started singing in talent shows, I started emailing record labels when I was like 14. This was in 2003 that I started sending emails to record labels saying, hi, my name is Whitney, I'm 15 years old and I want to be a singer. And I had some clips of me singing like on my laptop. Super crappy, super unprofessionally done, but it was all I had. I sent some clips, you know, of me singing random songs, and one of them in particular that I remember was 2K Sounds. They're no longer around, but they were a branch off of Virgin Records. And they had this one artist who was about my age. Her name was Brooke Allison. But she had a song called The Kiss Off, and it had the AOL voice. It went, goodbye.
Goodbye.
In it. And I don't know if that's why it became so popular, because instant messaging was sort of a new thing, and it was like how everyone communicated. Text messaging was very new. Like some phones had it, most of them did not. Where are all my T9 guys? Everyone who knew how to do T9, y'all are my people. But she was with this label called 2K Sounds. Again, it was a branch off of Virgin. Her album did pretty well. I mean, considering it was off of a small label and she was only 14. Her debut song, The Kiss Off, Goodbye, the AOL song, whatever you want to call it, it hit number 28 on the Billboard charts. They were the main one that I remember staying in contact with for a couple years. And hi, my name is Whitney, I'm 15, I want to be a singer, here's some clips of me singing. I don't have any representation, I'm just sort of emailing people. Like, it was it was bad. It was bad. Anyway, they said, because you're under 18, we would prefer to work with you when you turn 18. And I was like, okay. And so I just sort of like stayed in touch with this one guy. His name was Bruce. Because Brooke was 14 when she signed with them, maybe she was 13, but she was 14 when the album came out. I asked, did something in your policy change? And he did tell me some stuff, nothing that I am going to repeat, because at this point it's just, he said, she said, and those emails between me and this guy have long disappeared because my inbox just sat for years and everything went away. But I ended up not working with them because I believe they became defunct before I turned 18. I believe they ended up having to close. But yeah, after it became defunct, there were a couple other places that I, was interested in. There was what would you call them? They're not a label. They were more of like promotion, A&R type of people. It's called Big Noise Now. And the like head honcho or whatever, his name is Al Gomez. I believe his wife also works with him doing the same stuff. They worked with Christina Aguilera in between her debut album and Stripped. So that's where I remember first seeing that name, Big Noise Now. She had her own website with them. It was very interesting. Actually, my color guard instructor, her son worked with them. I had someone who knew someone who actually worked with them, so the 2 degrees of separation or whatever. And this guy, Al, is pretty good at getting people on the official Grammy ballot. So I had emailed him, and I had been in talks with him, and again, he preferred if I was 18 before they did anything with me. And what they were willing to offer me, but I didn't take it, was a development deal, which is not a record deal. It was like a year to, you know, work with other producers and songwriters and sort of kind of get a rough demo together, and then they would help promote it, I think is what was going to happen. It's been like 15 years since I talked to this guy. I don't know why I didn't take it. I think I just got scared. And I ended up not doing anything. So music career never happened. I was never in a band. I have sang with a couple bands, like as a guest vocalist or whatever, but I've never had like my own band. I've never had an original song. I've never done any of that. I do have some friends in the music business who have asked me my opinion on things, like my friend Vicky Natali, who won Star Search. She's asked me questions like advice from either a fan standpoint or, you know, just someone who vaguely has an idea of how the music business works. Hey, what do you think about this? And things like that. But as far as a career for me personally, I have never had that. And I don't know if I really do, because I grew up, my teenage years were in the early 2000s when being being stick thin was popular. Like you had the Paris Hiltons, and like Lindsay Lohan was really, really thin, and like everyone was super thin, and I was really thin. But you know, the teenage mindset is, oh, I have a role when I sit down, I'm fat. Everyone has a role when they sit down. Okay? But when I was, you know, 15, 16, I thought if you had any kind of role, you were fat. And oh man, it messed me up bad. And I saw how like the paparazzi and the media and all these tabloids just ripped people apart, especially if you were female. They just ripped you apart. And I didn't think I could handle that. And then there was also the, I don't want to call it a threat, but there was the possibility of, because I was a female, there was always the possibility of me being either manipulated or being in a situation that could be less than desired. I'll just say that. And that terrified me. And there was a lot of little things that popped up in my head, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. What if this happens? Maybe I would have been successful. I don't know. The only thing that I did that, as far as music business goes, is I did go to an audio engineering school to learn how to, you know, run a soundboard. And because I thought maybe, well, if I'm not going to be a singer, maybe I'll be a producer. And so I did that, and I took a class from a guy named Marius Perone, and he actually did some of the mixing on Selena's live album that she won a Grammy for in 1993. Well, it was from 1993. She won it in 1994. He was really cool. I really liked that class. And there's one story from that time period that, looking back, if I would have done something differently, like the whole trajectory of my life could have been completely different. So for our final, we had to, well, at this point, our classes sort of overlapped. There was the lecture class, and then there was the lab class. Lab class started like 2 weeks after lecture. So for our lecture final, we had to set up a band. Okay, we set up the band, like plugged all their equipment in and stuff. Marius ran the board, got the tracks laid down, and then the rest of our final was, we had to mix it like the way we wanted to mix it. And this band comes in, and they were singing a song called One More Try, and one of the other musicians who usually did the backing vocals was sick and he couldn't sing, or something happened, he wasn't able to sing. And Marius was like, oh, well, this would sound really cool with at least another voice. And it was a song called One More Try, and I don't remember all the words, but I remember thinking, you know, this would sound really good as a duet between a man and a woman. And I was the only girl in this class. I was the only girl in the room, counting you know, where the band was set up. I was the only girl. And I thought about saying, what about me? I think it would sound good with the female vocal. I didn't do it. And so the lead singer, you know, basically sang with himself. And I always thought, you know, well, what if I would have said that? Like, what if I would have, you know, suggested me singing on the track? Like, I don't know. I don't know if anything would have happened, but it's one of those things like I'll never know because I didn't speak up. If only. Anyway, that was a really long answer to that question, so I'm just gonna end this video here and answer the rest of them in a future video. I just thought I'd answer this question because I've gotten it like a million times. So that's been it for this video. If you like these kinds of videos where I take your questions, but most of the time I react to things, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified when I have new videos coming out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!